Good morning. This is Board of Commissioners, Richland County. At 9:30, we're in session. I'm Darrell Banks with my fellow commissioners, Mears and Tony Vero. Casey Carl, our clerk. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves.
Dave Dick, Senior Fair Board Livestock Committee, Showrunner Committee.
Jim Schaub, President, Senior Fair Board.
Christy Keith, Vice President of the Senior Fair Board.
Well, we want to hear from you gentlemen, so you go right ahead and tell us why you're here.
Yes.
Okay, so I kind of want to give a background where we started, where we're at, and how we move forward or not move forward. Roughly 2018, 2019, a group of individuals started collecting money for basically starting off getting a bigger show arena. And to my knowledge, none of us were a part of it. And we generated up to, it was after a couple years, we got $135.69 in our account. And at that point, as we got, 20, 30,000, we had to start doing a little more work, right? What's our plan? Adina was very helpful in coming out there and looking at the grounds and making recommendations. Talked about expanding the show arena that we currently have, cutting off half the hog barn, putting it on the back end. And as we got more involved in this, because we are a quasi-governmental entity and the grounds are technically owned by you gentlemen, it's best to assume that prevailing wage is appropriate and we treat it as a public entity. So the next step was, what are we going to do? Where are we going to build it? How are we going to build it? How are we going to get the funds? And in the meantime, COVID hits and everything kind of comes to a halt. Because we had 53,000 in our account for about, 2 or 3 years at this point, I said, listen, I'm just going to jump in and I'll figure this out. So I became the head of the committee, was to approve of all the boards. I went to Senior Fair Board after I made some phone calls and we were able to get a hold of Chris Harris Consulting. Chris Harris Consulting does not normally do projects our size. And she did have a new person she was taking on, Susan Gentili. And she thought that'd be a good first project for her. So on December the 28th of 2021, the board voted to hire Chris Harris Consulting. Initial cost for that was going to be $75,000 plus promotional materials, things of that nature. So now we got Chris Harris Consulting involved. They're working on generating money, grants, etc. And it's like anything, there was draws to that when people needed money paid for promotional materials, or this person got 3,000, whatever the case may be. In the meantime, right, you're still meeting with Adina, talking about what this thing's going to look like, where it's going to go, things of that nature. And I know there was some concern about where it's going to go and putting it in the current spot. We couldn't afford to do that with the budget we were talking about. Putting it at the end of the hog barn, we couldn't afford to do that based off the elevation and essentially cost. Not that it may not have been an okay place to put it or even where the current show arena is, but it's just a matter of dollars. So one of my meetings with Adina, they said, hey, listen, the most cost-effective place to put this is right in front of your current show arena. You still keep the roundabout. You are taking away a little bit from the midway. But the advantage of that is we use our current show arena for winter storage. So we still have that. So that can still make money during the winter. And now you have a new building that you can ideally rent. So the goal was to have a multi-purpose building, a building that would have heat, air, an overhang. If we could get it stamped concrete on the outside, it would be like 6 foot high concrete walls and steel on top, not just essentially a pole barn, something that could be ideally used year round, whether that's for boat shows, weddings, cattle shows, hog shows, whatever the case may be. Okay. We do have some buildings that are pretty big that we rent out regularly for weddings or different events. We've got Fairhaven Hall. We've got the Red Barn. We've got Arts and Crafts building, which we're in the process of right now redoing. That's going to be absolutely beautiful. We used last year's budget to budget in money to fix that, to make that more profitable. So we've got these other buildings, but, you know, you're restricted on what some of the things you can do with them with like livestock because there's kitchens and different things in there, you know, health and safety things. You know, and also the location. So we were hopeful that this building was going to be awesome. So we had these flyers made up. Chris had them all made up and all that good stuff. And we were presenting to the community and donors about this is our goal of what we want to have. And this is why we want to have, and this is the need for it. So we got to the point where we were through Harris Consulting, and when she stopped, they did it for about a year. We still had money trickling in, but total generated, if you include that, was the Harris Consulting was $1,080, $1,080,274.49. So you add that to that's including the 53,135.69 we started with. They generated 1,027,138.80. So we have total in the kitty from what we started with what we generated, 1,080,274.49.
1,000,080, Dave.
274.49.
274.
That includes with what we started with before we hired consult, what she generated in the year-long contract, and money that trickled in after that.
Harris Consulting been paid.
Yes, so that's the next step. So then Harris Consulting did take a cut. She took off $5,000 instead of owing 75. We paid Harris Consulting 70, and then it didn't all go to, there's different people in Harris Consulting.
Sure. Was there a company and they?
Yeah. And actually we wrote out 1099s to people. So, or checks directly to people and then 1099 them. And then we had about $4,066.22 for promotional materials, you know, models, papers, different things they needed, blah, blah, blah. So after we got this money generated, the next step was to post this thing up for bid. So we posted it up for bid and we left it up longer than normal. And we got a bunch of calls. I got calls. I think you guys, I know Tom Kraft got calls, but at the end of the day, the only person that actually put in a physical bid was Adina. So we accepted the bid, and the first stage of that is now the pre-construction phase. Pre-construction phase consists of engineers, blueprints, things of that nature. The cost of that was $82,000. The board,
Original cost factored into the cost of the show arena when the project started.
yeah. So when in our unofficial conversations with Adina, because once again, they've really gone above and beyond. They probably have $30,000 or $40,000 worth of work just for free. They said we think we can build this building 1 million, 1.1, you know, somewhere in that ballpark. Now, we made some modifications because, you know, you shoot for the stars and you see where you land, right? We'd like to have restrooms. We want the whole thing to be heating and cooled, things of that nature, because it adds more value to the community.
Was that in the original design plans, the restrooms and the HVAC?
Yeah, yes. So, and the HVAC system was, what's the right word for it? They bid it, but it was overkill. Yeah, well, we'll get to that side, but yes, there was a bid for HVAC. It was included as an add-on in the bid. So like this is, you know, they got all the bids from subcontractors and things of that nature, which I'll go over that in a second. So the board voted for the $82,000 to be paid for Adina for the pre-construction phase. Once again, that's in draws. They took 32.8, then 8,200. They're still owed $8,200, but they haven't sent us the final invoice for that for their 82,000 pre-construction costs. So once we pay them that leaves in the kitty $924,188.27. My math is correct. So that's what we got the building. So yesterday, and we've got subcommittees under Senior Fair Board. Show arena, or the arena committee met with Adina and went over the budgeting things and stuff like that. We cut off some stuff and then we presented it to the Senior Fair. Essentially, there were a couple different options. And we can possibly go back to these options depending on where we go from here. Option was you don't build the building, you keep trying to raise funds and see what you can do for 2025. They anticipate as everything costs are continue to rise and the current bids that they have only are going to last for so long from some of these subcontractors. Option 2 was the current design, the heating and cooling, which was over-engineered, but that's going to cost $1.5 million.
How does it, and I know it's not through any fault of your guys, but where's the disconnect from a estimated 1 million to 1.1 to build the building out excluding inflation going all the way to 1.5. I mean, that's 50% of the
Yeah,
project.
so it was 450,000 for the air conditioning unit that the
That
engineer.
doesn't seem to be, I mean, I know this isn't darts where you have to get a bullseye, but it seems like they underestimated the project by 50%.
No, the air conditioning unit that they want to put in that arena it's over designed. And
When it went to seek funding, though, we didn't have a true actual architectural cost of what the building was going to be.
right. So we had projections from Adina of what they're talking about. They didn't think it would cost that much for and this is like, we're talking climate controlled, humongous building. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it's not cheap for sure.
So, okay, so that was with that. Now, you need to keep in mind two things with these options that I'm presenting to you today. The first thing is that the show arena, the arena building right now would be built, and where the animals would actually show at for the fair, for the immediate future, for this, if this does get built before this fair, it would not be concreted. It's gonna be concreted. We've got people that are gonna donate that and take care of that. But right now, to pass the inspections and do different things and just for costs, it's concreted around it and ADA compliant for the bathrooms, restrooms, all that stuff, but where the actual animals show is not concreted, it's mulch, which we put mulch on the concrete, but it will be concreted either if this goes through either this year or in the immediate future. The other component of this is Adina, assuming we're going forward, the electric's got to be right up next to it. Okay, and we've got some problems with the Midway, and some of the electric and transformers. Long story short, just to have the electric ready to go right there was like 25,000. If we do what we need to do is approximately 80,000. Okay, so we're keeping that in mind. Option 3 was, and this was the option that passed at last night's meeting, was that we build the current contract design for 1,122,000. It would have heat
But
in,
you're still short at the 924.
Yep.
Okay.
yep, it
What's
was
that? Build the design at what?
1,122.
Okay.
On the assumption, once again, concrete for where the animal show gets put in at a later date, and that the concrete's or the electric's ready to be plugged in. That does not include, that includes heat in the arena area, blown in insulation above the liner panel. They got rid of fire suppression, and oh, that's one of the things that need, I mean, they've done meeting with people and getting rid of stuff, but essentially you would have heating and cooling in the bathrooms and the office areas, but only where the show arena heat is that it would have, what's it?
Tubular heating in
And-
the big building.
And it also includes, pardon my language, they're literally called big ass fans. These, an exhaust system, so it's gonna be,
With the potential down the line, if you guys got more funds to then fully do the HVAC.
yeah, and
Construct it in a manner. where
Exactly.
HVAC can come later.
exactly, that could be, and also, it may be with the design of it, pretty cool in there for what we need to do. You know what I mean? Not just for summer stuff. We till we get in there and get the stuff going, we don't know,
So
obviously.
what you're saying is you may not need that additional.
It may be sufficient,
Okay.
what we need to rent out, okay? Now, is it exactly what we wanted? Nope. But it may be good enough. But if it's not, then in the theory, you know, there's a difference between a new construction and then making upgrades to current buildings for prevailing wage and those rules and regulations. So we would look at that if it's not sufficient, if that makes sense.
Who's the fairgrounds' prevailing wage coordinator? Who's overseeing that when we start to go to construction to make sure that everything's being done in accordance with
I would-
wage?
That was all through Adina.
Okay.
That they know it has to be prevailing wage, and that's part of the reason this costs more than some of the, everybody that's been made known. Now, Adina has done some things for these numbers work, okay? One of the things they've done is normally like their equipment, they charge you for that when they're doing the building and stuff, they're not charging us. They normally go from 8%. As their charge, they went down to 4%. So that saved us 40-some thousand. And then Josh Darling, who's like guy in charge basically, is not taking any fees. So Adina's making cost-cutting things to make this work. So the board passed the 1,122,000, and it was a very contested vote. I think it was 11-15 that it passed. And quite frankly, there's people on our board that have been on for a while. There's people on the board that just got on. There's, you know, you gotta 27 members rolling things, and some people have different views and different things, and it is passing to where we're at today, but nobody's on the same page. It's not been 100% on anything, okay? But it all has passed by a majority. Option 4, depending on what happens today, okay? And by the way, if we can secure funding, they want to start by February 26th. They're hopeful will be done by, he said, July 15th, because we've got a couple big things coming up at the fairgrounds. We've got mainly incarceration, that some of those, they're gonna tear out some grass, put some asphalt on, but they use some of that spot for like car tents or whatever for when they stay out here for the incarceration deal. So they're hopeful to be done by that time. They're hopefully done by fair, but who knows? Okay. Option 4 was, if we can't get funding, was they build the arena for 880,000. And that does not include, that does include, I think, heat, it says heat only at the arena, excludes everything else. I don't think we'd have air or
Because there wouldn't be any bathrooms.
yes, and no bathrooms, I'm sorry.
No bathrooms at all.
So essentially, yeah, or bathroom also be out. So essentially, and we might have to, there might be a little bit more cost for modifying design, but essentially you got your building, then on the outside of the building are your restrooms for the public to use, things of that nature. That gets all cut off. So if we can't, the board pass and I can, or we can, if we can secure funding up to 300,000, now I'll talk about it in a second, then that was why we're here today, because that's what they passed. Doesn't mean, we're gonna need 300,000, and if we can't get funding, then, my opinion would be that you go back to the board, and at that point, you've got really one of 3 options. Option 1 is you build the arena for the 880,000. We've got that money in the account. There's no cost, no bathrooms. It's really more of just not kind of a pole barn, a nicer pole barn, but it's really nothing more than that. That could be used for some of the limited things that we would use it for. Could be shows, would mainly be animal shows, things like that. Could be used for storage. It could be used for a variety of things, but not ideally. The other component to that is we can say that we're hopeful to put bathrooms and heating and cooling in it, but we're going to have to disclose that to the public, saying, this is the funding we have. This is all we can do. We're hopeful to do this at a later point. We acknowledge that this was our goal to have this type of building. We can't afford to do it. We're moving forward with the lesser building. And some people may be upset about that for the donation. Some people may not be. I don't know. The other option is you, like I said, you push it back and you try to get more funding. And then we're starting all these quotes again, all these things again, and the cost is going to go up. Or option 4 is give the money back to everybody that donated. Not exactly sure logistically how that works, especially if people have used that for tax write-offs already. But I guess that in theory could be an option. And that is in my opinion, a incredible PR nightmare for our fair board. And I'm fully acknowledging that people on our fair board were part of this process. I also acknowledge that this wasn't handled the way it should have been handled. This could have been different steps before this started, but you can't cry over spilled milk. You deal with what you got.
So you guys need to go to option 3. I mean, I show you're technically short 197,812, give or take, but you're probably gonna need some additional money. So you need about another 300,000.
Yeah, so here's in Dave Dick land, my mind, how this would work. So if we can secure funding for 300,000, assuming the lives, you have to remember, you've got 3 main people that generate for the senior fair board. You've got the board of directors of the senior fair board itself. Okay. You've got the women's auxiliary who has a subcommittee that does, the food and anything with food essentially that's going on at the fairgrounds, that component. Then you've got the livestock committee. Now, livestock committee is co-chaired by me and Mike Lance. And in the last 3 years, we have been blessed that those numbers continue to go up. We did 1.3 million last year. We take 6% of that. What's the 6%? That's our operating cost to run that subcommittee and also to use money for barn improvements, wash racks, roofs, different things on the livestock barns that need to be done. So, and I haven't got approval from sub boards yet or anything like that. And
I always say the fair board is so different. You guys have the senior fair board, all these offshoots, then you have an executive committee, right? And then everyone also comes in. It's like 40 something members, right? The way it's structured. Because I've gone to meetings going, this is bananas. Cause you gotta please a lot of people and then there's offshoots of committees and you're all working in the same direction, but then you also represent your committee. So you gotta represent. I don't know how you guys do it.
Yeah, and honestly, until at least, there's been some contested things relatively recently, but for the most part, the last couple of years, all three, and you got to throw in junior fair in this. This is a whole nother subcommittee. All these committees have been working pretty good on it.
All right.
In all reality. So here's the deal.
You're at 300,000. You guys need.
So we have 925,000 in the kitty. The livestock committee votes to put the 20 from funds that we have sitting in our account we haven't budgeted yet. We're in the process of budgeting. We kick over 25,000, puts up to 950,000 in the account. Now,
280 then.
just say we're short,
I'm just going with 300 ballpark.
300, now we're short 250. Okay, now nobody wants a red barn situation. Nobody wants a nightmare situation. So the next question is, how do you secure funding for a building that you don't technically own? So that's why we're here today. So what are our options? Can we secure funding? Can we secure funding through the treasurer? Can we secure funding from a bank? Who signs the notes? How, the board of directors, how can they personally be liable for something they don't own? These are all the questions and why we're here. But if you could secure it, if we were allowed to put, and the livestock committee votes to send 25,000 to it, and we need to secure a note for 250. If we say up to 300, but we say realistically it's 250. Okay, that puts you at $1.2 million. Then you would do, in my mind, what I would like to see was whatever funding, if we can get it, December 31st of every year, a $50,000 payment is due for the next 5 years. 25,000 of that would come from the livestock committee. 25,000 of that would come from the senior fair board. The senior fair board would generate that money, would be a couple different options. And ideally, this new building could be rented. Any rentals from that new building, whatever it may be, is earmarked to go towards that loan. Number one. Number two, we've increased our prices of the gate admissions by $2. We're hopeful that's going to help. Number three, we're in a better financial position we've been in than any other point in my mind. In this committee, we've added additional fundraising things. We did a reverse raffle. We're to do another reverse raffle that was profitable. We also have the Eclipse thing. So we've got things that are ideally.
You guys booked
Ready.
any overnight spots yet for the eclipse? When last I checked, I was told no.
Not yet.
We have no overnight. We were just down at Ohio Fair Managers and a lot of the boards that we talked to, pretty much all the boards in the state are doing some sort of event for Eclipse. So everybody's kind of finding that people are waiting till they see what the weather is. They don't want to secure a $500 spot and then have it be cloudy and rainy that weekend and
Well,
not.
if you're coming from out of state into Ohio in April, then you might have to wait until the 5 minutes before the eclipse is to happen.
Exactly,
Because the weather report in April in Ohio isn't exactly a
exactly.
model of consistency.
So everybody wants to be on board and do something, but you don't want to. You're kind of putting yourself out.
So has the senior fair board authorized you, Mike Lance, this group to go out and look at options in terms of borrowing money?
Yes. So the senior fair board has passed option number 3, the 1,122,000. And allowed us to figure out if we can secure up to $300,000 note and payment plans and how that would work. At that point, if we can secure the note, we then need to go back to the following boards for authorization. These are the payment plans. These are your options, 5 year, 6 year, 8 year, whatever the case may be. I'm talking from my perspective, what I think is most appropriate, but I couldn't go get funding until the senior fair board, are we going to build this or not? And I can't then go get funding until I find out how we can get funding on a building we don't own.
So, okay. Obviously, you're a lawyer, but I don't know who represents the fair board in terms of these types of things, but it would seem like from where we sit, the first thing that would need to be sorted out would be the legalities of the agricultural society. I think that's the Ohio Revised Code legal entity it's under to have authority to borrow monies. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you do that, Dave, but I think you guys need some sort of legal opinion to say, what does the law permit us to do in terms of borrowing money?
I can tell you let me pull it up here if you give me 1 second. I contacted Paul Harris, who is the president of the Ohio Fair Managers Association yesterday.
Okay,
I sent him, thank you. And a couple of years ago, we were down there in the Red Book session. It was, you can only borrow 25% of your like total budget. I asked him yesterday for clarification and he said 1711.13 item B. The society can borrow money or obtain loans from lending institutions as long as the payment on the loan does not exceed 25% of the annual revenue of the society.
so 1711, what is that?
1711.13 item B.
Okay,
What's your annual revenue?
Yeah, what's your annual revenue?
What's the budget? You're on that budget.
Yeah,
Is it 1.9?
Yeah, that's over $1 million.
Yeah.
So we could secure a note for 250,000 for sure then.
says shall not exceed an amount equal to 25% of its prior 3-year average of annual revenues. What's your 3-year average of annual revenues?
I don't know the 3-year off the top of my head, but it's got to be close to $1 million.
And that says for the payment, not for how much you can.
But not how much.
It's for the payment.
It used to be how much you could borrow and they've switched that because they felt it was too constrictive. So now it's on the.
Okay, well, the conversation with the treasurer would be Bart. And obviously you guys have conversations with any private entities on the borrowing. I'm not even sure the commissioners would need to even be, to sign or co-sign. I don't know. We don't know. I think we'd need to know once you guys figure out what you intend to do. We'd have to have some conversations with Keller, presuming we would be okay with that, which is another conversation. But I don't even think we're at that point. Cause I don't think you guys have what you're gonna do yet, right?
Well, I mean, we've passed option 3 on the condition that we can secure a note. So we need to speak with Bart Hamilton, you're saying our treasurer, to see are you saying that, and then find out the logistics of the note in terms of if the agricultural society can get a note from the treasurer? I assume that's what.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily have to be a part of any of that. The way I'm reading the code, and again, this would have to be conversations with Andrew. And I'll tell you, I'm not saying this is yes or no. Some concerns from our end, or at least me, and then you guys can say what you want. Couple concerns. First is just the philosophy of this board. We have not, Stacy, when did we take out the loan on the phones? 2017?
Loan on
I
the
think I just made a third payment, so
phones.
he's just talking about our debt.
Oh.
This board. This, no, not you guys. This board, we have not borrowed 1 single cent since 2017 or 18.
It was 18.
18. We have not borrowed a cent. This board has a ideology that started with Marilyn and now Cliff that we don't like taking on debt. It's not to say we'll do it. Co-signing is a little different. The other piece that I would say is fair to be a little concerned of is that this board forego some outstanding debt from the Fair Board recently. If you guys recall, we just waived the debt on prior agreements. So I think those would need to be vetted out.
Yeah, I'm cognizant of all that, right? We're well aware of that. And I'm okay with, going back to the board saying, we're not gonna have enough time to get funding. Go with option 4, build that, in theory, pole barn, not.
I mean, look, the treasurer's office has money. You guys just need to sort out the legal piece of it. And that, like I said, that can probably be done without our involvement. I don't think we need to necessarily, I mean, Bart has some outstanding loans to Richland County municipalities as is. I mean, Bart can do that easily, presuming you guys can do it.
So basically, you need to talk to whoever your lawyer is,
Right.
and then with Bart, before we.
Or a private bank, either or both options, right? You want to explore both options. I mean, you're not talking a huge amount of money. I mean, I'm not scoffing at $250,000, but we're not looking at multi-million-dollar obligations here.
The other thing, they raised, $1 million.
Right.
So, we that's a feat. That's,
Right,
people have donated $1 million, want to see this happen.
correct.
So we're not pushing that away, but saying, talk to Bart. We have to do it legally. Tony says we probably, we'll find out when we talk to the lawyers and to Bart, we probably don't have to do anything, but if we do, we'll meet again and
Yeah, I don't think from what I'm seeing in the code, Dave, that we even have to be involved.
So
As of now, I could be wrong.
just, so out of clear, and I'm just clarifying this. Sorry, Dave, I hope you don't mind.
No, jump in.
This. So it is your stance that there is, I'm just gonna put no funding that can come from the commissioners for this bill.
Well, we've previously already contributed, right?
But this is why I'm asking, just so we can go back and say, your opinion is that we need to go get a loan to fund this on our own from the Ag Society.
I would say, well, go ahead, Daryl, you're the liaison first.
well, I would say, yes, we donated $50,000 or something to the building already.
Correct.
And, we're not gonna take money from the general fund to loan to you. If, and.
That's what I just so that we
And we
can,
would-
can say this is
And what Bart does, and he
right.
made this, it's okay.
Right.
Do it.
But
He's
take out a loan,
got more money.
either the BART or from a private institution, be it mechanics, personnel, whoever, to take out that loan.
Well, and there's also been about $650,000 in
Roof funding.
roof paving. I'm looking here. We had the Fairboard roof and paving. That was 607,000. And then we had yet another 50,000 on the snow barn retention system at, let's see, snow barn retention system at Utah. And that's nearly $700,000. And if you include the 50, that's $750,000.
And those funds came from where?
ARPA.
All of them?
Well, and we also waived the general fund debt too. That's not even including the waiving of the debt.
I'm not talking about the Red Barn debt.
There was,
Talking about the funds that you have been kind enough to allot to the senior fair or the fairgrounds improvements all came from ARPA,
yes, but the waiving of the debt was general fund. So two different sources, yeah.
which was 75,000 maybe.
No.
It was $37,000 for the final payment and they made us put $75,000 of our money towards the fund.
Yeah, we waived the payment, yeah,
So instead of using the 75,000,
which was coming back to the general fund.
make that payment to the Red Barn, we use that and put it towards the arena project.
Right.
Got it. And then you waived it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, I mean, I think, look, we want this barn to happen. I do think though, we at least want to see some of the options that you guys come up with. And that's not to say if you guys need to get close. It's like, hey, can you kick us over the end? I'm willing to listen to that. I just don't want to say, yeah, you have a commitment for X amount of dollars just yet.
Okay, so the next step would be you want us to contact private banks in Barton Hamilton to see what we're talking about in terms of funding. If we can get a loan up to 300,000, how that would work, the payment plans, and then just report that back directly to banks.
Yeah.
And if it requires any action from our point, we'll have you come in and talk.
And I presume, Chris, so what's your agreement with Chris Harris too? Is she gonna continue to go out and try to get those additional, oh, she's done?
I mean, it was a year-long contract.
That's my question. What was your agreement with her? How did she walk away after $1 million? What did she
Her
do?
agreement, there's no guarantee what she would generate. Okay,
Okay, so
was to generate,
because whatever you can generate, we'll pay you 75,000.
yep.
Percentage, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it,
Law allows you to charge a percentage, I think.
no, it was and once again, we had 53,000 for like 3 years. Like, where do we go from there? You know what I mean? Like, how do we get, and so, we did generate 1,027,138. Did we get our 1.1? No, I was hopeful she was going to literally generate 1.1 million on top of our 53,000 minus out our costs. We'd be sitting with a little over $1 million in our kitty right now.
Has there been discussion about engaging with her again for that last hurdle while you go, like, having both of these concurrently, Dave?
I apprised her of what the status is. My understanding is they're essentially done. I mean, she's got some things she's looking into, but they're not going to lot anymore.
She's winding down and they have the soccer complex, which is gigantic.
And they did give us 12, they gave us 12 months. I mean, it's not, like whether you were happy with them or not, We wouldn't have this money without them.
She's about as good as they come in terms of raising money.
Yeah.
Have you also thought about, have you reached out to Maryland for the capital budget?
We
This,
got 200, well, I mean, we got 200,000. It was a matching grant and we matched it. So that's in
but
our,
I'm saying there's also, but I think have you talked to Maryland about potential if it qualifies for state capital monies that are coming up? There's there's additional monies from the state. Here, let me forward you guys. Hold on.
I had a quick question too. Wasn't this originally
Our capital grant.
the responsibility?
No, this is the state makes available capital monies to the entire state of Ohio every year, and there's an extra.
Only the responsibility of the livestock committee?
no,
State
so
$50,000 grant.
No, I think this might be different.
That, yeah.
So our prior board president, and I think even maybe the vice president, met with people of the livestock committee to start this arena project. And then somehow they got me involved because they thought they could just, hire an Amish crew, spend 300,000, and we got a new building. Okay.
Initially, it was just their baby, just the livestock.
Yeah, sort of.
They brought it to us. They
Yeah.
brought it to senior fair board and said, we want to do this. And the senior fair board said, if you can do A, B, and C.
If you could do, not if we can do.
It was, and it was,
Yeah.
they wanted to do this building and we said, if it can have A, B, and C, then we will agree to do it. And then they took it. Then when they wanted to do, we needed state funding. When we were applying for state grants, they needed the Ag Society's name to be a part of it because they needed to do it under the Ag Society. Hence, it became an Ag Society and Livestock Sale Committee venture. But it was, it was the Livestock Committee's project and they became a senior fair board when they needed to use our name.
And the livestock committee can't build new buildings without senior fair approval.
Right.
Senior fair approval can't build new buildings without commissioner's approval. So, yeah, and honestly, my other concern is because of time, you know what I mean? Like, we'll make some calls and get some things, but we got the money to build a barn. May not be what we exactly wanted.
So what the board approved, let me get some clarity on this. What the board approved, 15 to 11, was to build at 1.122 million, right? Assuming
We can get.
you could get the rest of the money. So the approval was not to build something less than that. It was to build it.
On the condition we can get the funding.
We'll have to have, if we can't get the funding, we'll have to have an emergency meeting
Correct.
to go back and say, we can't do this. This is what we have. This is the only option. It's either do nothing or do this.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I will tell you, although some board members aren't happy with the location, some board members aren't happy necessarily with just having, I'm just gonna call it, it's not just when you just a pole barn, but let's call it a pole barn to make my argument. Something is better than nothing. And I don't know, when people donate money to a project, you're not donating on a condition that it had, this type of water heater in it or this or this or this. This was our goal. We didn't obtain it. This is what we got. This is what we're gonna do. And if there's backlash from the public on that, it is what it is. But something, in my opinion, I'm speaking for myself, something is better than nothing. And I'm not a big fan of getting a freaking loan, especially after the Red Barn nightmare. And I'm tired of fighting with public, committee, donors, commissioners.
Hey, you're not fighting with us.
You know what I mean? I understand, we rent this grounds from you. We need to run this as a business and we are more profitable in doing the right things. It's just you're tying up loose ends. We're trying to go from here. The biggest problem is time right now. We are running out of time.
We need to communicate with Daryl. We're sorry, we're already 8, we had a 10 o'clock. That's okay. I just sent Jim the state capital guidelines. Take a look at it. There's significant additional monies. Now, I don't know if I read the capital budget all the time and then I gotta go back and look at the guidelines. But look at the guidelines before you call her. But there's potential and that's a decent project. If it qualifies, or you can get a pretty decent chunk of change. So
Less loan, the better. And ideally, so let's say you only needed to take out a 5-year note, or excuse me, 75,000 hypothetically. Fine, livestock committee pays that next 3 years, doesn't affect senior fair board revenue. We're golden. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
I mean, we're close. We're real close.
Well, we appreciate you coming in
Thank you.
and I congratulate you on getting $1 million
Yeah, that's
started. That's took a lot of work and appreciate it.
A lot of work, great start.
You may have some questions. Hang on, both of them there. Al, you're first today. You got any questions?
Oh, I'm still trying to sort stuff in my head, so
But don't
not
feel
right
alone.
now. I'll defer to Carl.
Carl, questions?
Oh, so many questions and so little time, Commissioner Banks.
Well, thank you for considering the time because we did run over.
Well, and I understand, but there are some numbers. I'm not a numbers person, so I need to run back through some stuff. March of 2022, the Fair folks asked commissioners for 500,000 in ARPA to help fund this. What was the result of that request?
So there's a couple things, Carl. There was outstanding debt that we waived, and we told the Fair Board, instead of paying us, put it to the show arena. So there's a couple pieces. And then the commissioners also approved
Show ring, it was a roofs project,
The ARPA funds was.
ARPA funds for the roof
well,
project.
no, I haven't got there yet, Jim. Give me a second, please. That was the first piece. Then there's two other pieces. Then there was the Fairhaven roof and paving at the fairgrounds, and there was an ARPA award of $607,581 for the Fairhaven roof and paving. And then there was a separate project, which was the snow barn retention system at the youth hall and cafeteria at the fairgrounds with Warner Roofing. And that was for $49,550.
Okay, and I understand, I think, Daryl, I heard you say that you commissioners were not going to spend general fund money on this, but I mean, that's a decision, that's not a rule. According to, I think it's 1711.15 or something, Board of Commissioners can erect or repair buildings without any form of indebtedness to the society if they choose to do it. So it's not that you're not allowed to do it.
No,
it's
no,
the
we're
commission-
allowed to do it and we have been, as Tony just said, we have done it. I'm not ruling it out for the future. I'm just ruling out that we're not gonna loan them 250, 300, whatever they need. We want them to go seek elsewhere, find out what they can find out, and then come back to us and at that time.
Okay, and David, just to clear up a couple of numbers, in your account right now, I think I heard you say 1,080,274 is
No,
what you have right now?
nope, that's inaccurate. So in our account right now, we have in it 932,388.27. We still have to pay Adina as part of the pre-construction phase, additional 8,200. So once we pay them, that'll leave in the account 924,188.27.
How much ARPA monies did you guys get?
What? For the building?
Got some ARPA monies as well. Didn't you get some COVID assistance dollars?
For tables and chairs?
No, from the state and or the feds. Didn't Fairgrounds get some additional money? I know DeWine had,
Night for 23 or 24?
no, I'm talking about 2020.
Is that the?
Yeah, that's when we bought, yes, we did. We got money for that. That's when we bought the hands-free sanitizer.
Hand-free
all that stuff,
sanitizers, the
yes.
COVID money for
With COVID money.
I don't know
sanitizer.
how much you guys got.
I thought it was 10 grand.
It had to be used for
Yeah.
COVID related.
Yeah, used for COVID related, it was 10 grand.
Touch-free faucets.
Look, I think to put this over the hump, I think what Daryl's saying is, look, we're not saying no.
No,
I
that's
want to see what you guys come up with, and
the percentage of the total amount you've already raised.
it's impressive.
Yes.
Yeah, so like I said, we once we pay the 8,200 out probably this week or next, that's gonna leave, call it 925,000. And hopefully the livestock committee is gonna kick over 25,000. Now we're at 950,000. We're right there. I'll get a hold of Hamilton.
Well, heck, when you leave here, just knock on his door and see if he's available real quick. Either him or Andy McGinty.
All right, we'll do that now.
They're right
All
next
right,
door.
so if you then, so that, with that 950, if you got $300,000 loan in some way through BART or a private institution, that gives you, I can't do the math, a little shy of 1.2. Does that build the 9,200,000 square feet building with HVAC and restrooms or no?
Not complete HVAC. It builds it with restrooms, it builds heating in the show arena area, and it would have cooling in the bathrooms in the office. It also would include an exhaust system, fan system for cooling in the arena area. That's also on the assumption that there is, once again, the concrete gets poured at a later date after the fair is over and electric's ready to roll. So we figured we needed 1.2 million to build it.
And it would take 1.5 to have complete HVAC cooling throughout the arena.
You got it.
Okay, very good. That's what I needed. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jim, I sent you the capital budget.
Get with her. Thank you. You guys got time to talk to the bar?
Yes. If I get a parking ticket. My paralegal.
Till next time, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
See you, David.
Morning.
How many years?
Today is the first day of year 37.
37 years Kelly's been with the county, Carl.
I was just a kid then.
I didn't think you were 37 years old.
Right. Funny how that math works.
Okay. Well, on the agenda now is to get a motion to go into executive session. Discipline purposes.
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Beard.
Yes.
It's now 10:21. We are back in session. And Mr. Vero, do you have a motion to make?
Motion to terminate employee at the Richland County Child Support Enforcement Agency effective at business hour end today.
Second.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Vero?
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Yes.
Okay. Got any questions on that? Okay. We will do some other before we meet again in April.
Yep. I'm here for the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you'll send.
Can I get a motion to certify the record January 23rd meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Yep. Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Vero?
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Yes.
Okay, can we get a motion to approve the requisitions?
So moved.
Second.
Banks?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Yes.
And a motion to authorize the hiring of eligibility referral specialist.
Did we do appropriation, transfer appropriations, Daryl? Give weekly.
Nope, we did.
Motion to approve weekly appropriation request.
Second.
Thank you.
You got it.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Vero?
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Yes.
Now we want to hire.
You want to hire Brock as of January 25th. He would be an eligibility referral specialist at JFS.
We also have. Wait, okay, motion. Trying to look at all, yeah, there it is, okay.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Vero?
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Yes.
And so there's something here to add is request for authorization to offer employment to recommended candidates. She has two people here she would like to and after background check, she'll probably recommend that they be hired or not.
I will make a motion to authorize an offer of employment of eligibility referral specialist 2 and eligibility referral specialist 2 for WeOA. Don't have effective formal start date yet, contingent upon their acceptance.
Second potential start date would be February 15th.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Vero?
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Hey, anything else? Any questions from the press?
Yeah, I walked out of the room for a minute. Did you take any action after the executive session as a result of the executive session?
Yes, we terminated an employee
Oh, okay.
effective as of today. End of day. Okay, we'll stand in recess at 10:25 and be back at 10:30 to go into executive session.
Your issues are.
It is 10:51 and we are out of executive session and we will continue to negotiate. And any other business? Any other questions?
Yeah.
10:52, we stand adjourned.